Chapter 1. How to install the mod. The installation of the mod is actually quite simple. In the folder you downloaded, you'll find several files. To install the base of the mod and the associated 1998 season, click on 1998 base file. Now, copy the included F1 2020 folder and override it with your F1 2020 folder in your Steam library, which you typically find under Steam library/Steam apps/common. It's important here that you don't drag the F1 2020 folder from your folder into the F1 2020 folder itself. This is a common mistake for beginners in modding because otherwise the file paths cannot be properly assigned, and in the end, no files will be overwritten. How to change to another season. To switch to a different season, you follow a similar process to installing the base file. In the mod folder, the individual seasons are marked with their respective years. Please note that you always start your career in the year 1998 and avoid jumping back and forth between years randomly. If you skip seasons, you'll need to insert the seasons in between in order, as otherwise files might be missing. If you're downgrading to a previous season, make sure to always insert the 1998 base file first to reset the mod. Then, insert the seasons again until you reach the season you need. If you encounter a crash error while trying to load into a race, weekend, or load cars/drivers in the GP or time trial menu, it means that you haven't executed this step correctly. How to install a My Team car and how to play My Team correctly. My Team skins are installed in a similar way to the base mod and seasons. You can find them in the folder My Team skins, and depending on the year, you'll need the skin from that specific year. In each of the My Team skins, you'll eventually find an F1 2020 folder. Copy that and override it with your F1 2020 folder. It's important to note here that the additional My Team version 2000-2002, there's an issue with the 2002 Ferrari model, which is used for some cars during that time. If My Team is started with these cars, it crashes. Therefore, you also need to include the F1 2020 folders for each year in this folder. And again, it's a simple drag and drop from the F1 2020 folder. Creating your first save game. Now, let's move on to the most challenging part of the whole process, starting the mod for the first time. Since we have to downgrade to an older version of F1 for the name changer, old save games won't work anymore. It's best if you delete the save game from your folder completely. You can find it in Program Files 86/Steam/userdata/your user number/1080-110. Delete all files in this folder so that the save game can be created anew. In the Steam settings, set the option to update the game as far as back possible, then launch the game. You'll need to create a character and restart the game until you no longer see the message incompatible save. This may take several restarts. Fortunately, you only need to do this once. Chapter 2. How to play the mod. F1 name changer. When starting the game, you'll need to minimize the game briefly in the main menu each time to launch the F1 name changer. After successful installation, you'll find it in your F1 2020 folder. Once you have the game and the F1 name changer running, click on Write to F1. If a window appears asking you about custom offsets, simply click No. Now you have the names and teams of the F1 season you loaded. If you continue to experience problems or if names are missing, switch the game language to English. If you encounter a crash while driving on the track, looking back, or overtaking, it's likely due to the name changer and a non-English game. How R&D upgrades work between the year. Since we can't access the database, we rely on tools like the F1 name changer. Consequently, you'll never see the correct R&D chart in the menu. However, R&D upgrades work as usual. It's just that the base performance of the car changes for each year. This means we've looked at how the R&D performance stands roughly in the game each year and developed a performance that changes every year, reflecting the real balance of power from that year as closely as possible. However, if a team upgrades particularly well or poorly, this can shift the balance. For example, in my playthrough, Renault suddenly won the 2003 World Championship because they upgraded significantly better than the rest. In short, all upgrades work as usual, but you won't see the performance in the table on the R&D screen. You'll see it on the track. How driver transfers work. The driver transfers are determined and triggered by the game itself. We place the drivers in such a way that they ideally replace the 2020 drivers based on their rating/potential and age. Some drivers will also be replaced between the years, so not all drivers will always be available. For example, Ricardo Rosset is only available in the years 1999 and 2000, whereas Jenson Button becomes available starting from 2000. If you skip various seasons and don't start in 1998, you'll have fewer driver transfers. The mod is intended as a career mode that starts in 1998. No simulation times. The AI is too fast. Often, I've received messages about the AI being impossible to beat. It turns out that these people always, without exception, encounter the same problem, even though it's actually explained in the README. So, here's a detailed explanation in video form. In F1 2020, the times of the 2020 Formula 1 cars are stored as fake times in the database, which we can't access. Whenever times are simulated in any form, the game uses these fake times. Times are simulated whenever time is skipped, fast-forwarded, or simulated in any way. This happens when I don't manually drive out onto the track during practice or qualifying or jump onto the track. During the time when the game puts you on the track, about 1 minute and 30 seconds in game minutes pass, during this time, it uses these fake times, which are impossible to beat with old Formula 1 cars. The same problem occurs when you fast forward time, teleport back to the pit, or when the session timer expires, and you've already finished your laps or are in the pit while others are still driving. For example, at the end of Q1, cars behind you are still completing their laps, and you've already crossed the finish line after 0 seconds. Therefore, I recommend either experiencing the full qualifying experience without skipping time and being the last one on track, or simply simulating the practices and setting qualifying to one-shot qualifying, which would also be more realistic for most seasons since between 98 and 2007, most years only had a one-lap qualifying session. AI is still too fast in the race. As each car handles differently and new AI patterns had to be added between seasons to accommodate this, it can quickly lead to being either too strong or too weak when changing teams or starting a new season. I recommend driving the first one-shot qualifying of each new season and then adjusting the AI so that your time matches that of your teammate. Keep in mind that each AI difficulty point is approximately 0.1 seconds. For example, if your teammate is 2.2 seconds faster than you, then you adjust the AI down by 22 points. Hockenheim and Malaysia. How the imported tracks work. The imported tracks of Hockenheim and Malaysia have some issues. I recommend avoiding them altogether unless you're familiar with Cheat Engine. First and foremost, do not use them in My Team mode. This will 100% result in a crash because these tracks only have 10 pit lanes and cannot handle an 11th. If you're playing driver career mode and you know how to use Cheat Engine, you should still be cautious. First, you should disable rules and flags, which requires Cheat Engine in career mode, as otherwise the AI will trigger yellow flags left and right during normal driving, resulting in penalties for illegal overtaking. The qualifying session in Sepang is buggy, as you're teleported under the map during the one-shot qualifying. Use the short format or skip it. Apart from these issues, the tracks function normally. Chapter 3. Bugs, Crashes, and Problems. Straightline Speed Bug. The Straightline Speed Bug is unfortunately deep-rooted in the engine of F1 2020. If you've played F1 2017 to F1 21 and have progressed several years into your career, you've probably noticed that from Season 3 onwards, the AI gets a boost in speeds ranging from 250 to 300 km per hour, pulling away from you by about 0.1 seconds per straight. This is due to a misalignment between AI, R&D engine upgrades, and the game. It's not a bug of the mod, but rather one of F1 2020. To minimize its impact, I recommend using top speed setups from Season 3 onwards. Formula 2, Formula 3000, or GP2. The Formula 3000 has been patched into the game. However, due to suboptimal performance of the name changer, I recommend playing it only when it's not active. Additionally, there are numerous stability issues with this series, which is why I've decided to leave it in the game but remove it from the mod features. Play at your own risk. Problems with name and language. If your game crashes while you're already driving on the track, it's usually related to the name changer. This can be triggered by some names not being properly described. Simply restart the game. The bug is usually very rare but can occur about once every 100 races. If the bug occurs more frequently, switch the language of the game to English, as the name changer may have issues with your language. In languages other than English, there are usually no major issues, except for the few names that may not be replaced. Some of you may have also noticed that some names are abbreviated. This is because the name changer has problems with names that have more than 9 characters. However, it can still function normally. If it bothers you too much, just edit the name.txt file in your name changer folder so that the names are spelled out correctly. Other crashes. Some have complained that the game crashes after a season change. This only happens if you've inserted the files incorrectly. For others, the game takes forever to load after the cooldown lap. This is due to the size of the mod. Your PC may not be capable of loading everything perfectly, so lower the graphics settings for this. Sometimes the game crashes when switching menus too quickly or too much